Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Straight Up with Steph. Today, we are talking all about the hygiene department. And unless you've been like under a rock recently, there seems to be a lot of drama about hygiene, about hygienists not being valued, about other people, such as internationally trained dentists, dental students, potentially assistants starting to do our job. So there's just a lot of upheaval in dentistry. And I know, maybe I'm biased, I'm a hygienist, but I know the value of a hygienist in a practice and the value that a successful, productive hygiene department can have on the bottom line of a practice. And I think sometimes when practice owners are simply looking at the daily production of a hygienist, they are missing out on the actual value that a hygienist brings to the practice. We're not just two scrapers. We're not just doing bloody prophies all day to meet this production goal at the end of the day. We can, if we're utilized correctly, we can contribute to the overall health of both of our patients and the practice itself. And it's not enough for me to just say this. I wanted to bring in an expert who can speak to this too. So today I'm interviewing Dr. Marc Liechtung. He is a dentist. He also owns and buys dental practices, and he understands the value of a successful hygiene department. I picked his brain today on as many things as I could squeeze into about an hour. We talked about what a successful hygiene department looks like. We look at some numbers as far as the percentage of the hygiene department, like what percentage that should have of the overall production of the practice. How hygienists bridge the gap between the patient and the dentist, between the patient and the front desk, and how hygienists really are not being utilized properly in a lot of dental practices. He gives us his opinion on assisted hygiene, on the practices where dentists are doing all of the hygiene, and his opinion on these others, quote unquote, who are supposedly being allowed to do hygiene duties. It was really nice to see the perspective, not just of a hygienist, which is what I am, but a dentist and a business owner, and just the value that he sees in hygiene departments. It was really validating for me to hear what he was saying. I feel like I knew a lot of it already, but it was just nice for him to say that. And I hope that practice owners will listen to this and hopefully want to improve their hygiene departments if they need improvement. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation with Dr. Marc Liechtung. Hey, it's Steph, and welcome to the Straight Up with Steph podcast, where we have real discussions around health and life and just trying to be better at both. Hello, Dr. Marc Liechtung. Thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you, Stephanie. So happy to be here with you. Really am.
Well, me too, especially on this topic because it's hot right now.
Yeah,
There's just a lot of drama going on in dentistry, but
sure.
I've stalked you a little bit online and I've listened to some of your other interviews and your podcasts that you have,
Thank you.
and you seem very passionate about educating practice owners on the value of the hygiene department. So why are you so passionate about that?
Mm. First of all, I think it's my background. I did go to University of Pennsylvania, which was first they integrated the hygiene and the dental students, not in the same classes, but we clinically, we had an opportunity to work with hygiene and then do some exams. What I enjoy about and why I think hygiene is so, and that they're very perio oriented, is that we look for passive income throughout, from a business standpoint, passive income, people that are there that could help and I don't just mean money, I mean setting up your practice, winning great reputations. These build your revenue. You have somebody that sees these patients first, and they absolutely a world beater. They're wonderful. They're presentable. They're knowledgeable. They're gentle. They know that nobody died from a piece of calculus left on the tooth. And if we have to go back and get it, we will. But let's make great relationships and really little communities that I think they can do more so than anybody else in the office. From a clinical standpoint, they're essential because it gives the doctor that ability to see his patients, yet know that his patients that are coming in, whether it be recalls, recares, post-surgical, and new patients, getting the treatment that he's so or she is so proud of by the hygienist. I think when you have a great one, it's unbelievable. But there's always that other side. So I'm sure we'll touch that too. But I do think they're essential.
I mean, I'm a hygienist, so I'm biased, but I agree. And you have bought, and I would imagine probably continue to buy dental practices, right? And when you're
Absolutely.
looking at a practice to buy, are you looking at the success or not success of the hygiene department? Like, how big of a factor is that?
It's huge
Mm,
because if I see a practice that has a very busy doctor and not a very busy hygiene program, I have to question what's the future? Does he just take everything or she takes everything, treats, but we're not recaring? Now, somebody would say, well, that's a great opportunity to grow. I've learned through the years dealing with some larger companies and buying me and being involved and learning a lot about the hygiene business is that we are not here to regentrify, rebuild, or regrow or reinvigorate practices that are on the decline. We are buying them to improve good, great, very good practices. If you
okay.
don't have a hygiene department, who says that hygienist is going to buy into your changes to get it better? So I think you have to look at the philosophical value of the practice, but also, man, am I going to make mountains change and turn direction? No. So if it hasn't been done in 25 years, and Jane, the hygienist, is a stickler about everything time, probing. Now, reverse that. I've got a doctor that has a slow couple of days, but the hygiene department is money. Bang, bang, bang. That's beautiful. That's where we get our patients from. We don't get our patients walking in the door, sitting down and doing implants. We get them from discussing them in the hygiene department, moving them over to a treatment plan or a treatment plan coordinator room and getting the work done. We do not treat empty columns. So if my hygiene department is full, I am excited about the month.
Yeah, especially if you're a dentist practice owner and you're taking a vacation or some time off or whatever, and your hygiene department is still cranking out. I mean, that's passive income for the office, but it's also these hygienists are talking to your patients about restorative needs, and you're going to have all of these checks or exams when you come back. It just makes
Passive income.
sense.
It's passive income, not money in your pocket, but value in your pocket. You're in Tahiti with the missus, or the missus is in Tahiti with the mister, and we're there and we're having a good time. And we know we have Jane who's kicking it. But I'll tell you another thing that people don't realize is that when I bring on, and I have some unbelievable hygienists, very proud through my career to have great hygienists. If I go to a hygienist and I say, Jane, how's Dr. Smith, our new associate? How was he at the exam? Did he sit and face the patient? Did he look at the x-rays? Did he explain it in terms? I don't have to be in the room. I don't have to overlook the shoulder. If I've got somebody in my employee that is that bridge, understands clinical, understands value of treatment planning, understands the communicative way, if I have that person in the room, home run. She or he is it's my tape recorder. They'll say he was really pleasant. She was really explanatory. That's great. Then I talk to them. I say, I have hear great things, but do me a favor. If you see a root canal, I could correct things. If you see a tooth that has a root canal, let's make sure we have a PA. Things I can talk about that I'll hear from a hygienist that has been with me for a long time. And we've developed that clinical bond. They know what kind of practice we have. We want the same thing. And there are eyes and ears as we can police our practice a little bit, which is why I think having a relationship with your hygienist, if it's terrible, it will destroy you.
Yeah.
And if
And vice
it's
versa,
great,
right?
it could be the best thing to your point. You have confidence when you're away. You have confidence when you go to a kid's game. You have
Yeah.
confidence when you take a meeting. You have a doctor's appointment. You have confidence. You don't have to cancel the 9 o'clock appointment.
I worked for a dentist for my longest stint at an office was almost 10 years. And man, we had a system, like I was the only hygienist there, and I would set him up for all he had to come in and do was just verify what I said. But I'm talking about
Yeah,
possible incipient decay, this fractured tooth. Let's talk about ortho, whatever it is. And we just had this system, and the case acceptance was through the roof. And I felt good. I felt like I was valued and really contributing. And I know that he valued what I was doing. It can be a
absolutely.
beautiful thing.
Absolutely. It's sort of a really good system that works so well. And we're so lucky to have a system. What I always walk around saying this to my docs in my offices. What other business, think about it. recalls their customers. When we develop a hygiene program, we are literally calling our customers back to the store fictitiously and saying, let's check it out. Time to see if there's another issue. Hygienists should be embraced. Now, hygienists do take a little bit of, some hygienists take liberties. Some hygienists ask for enormous amount of money.
Yep.
Some hygienists aren't reading the room. Some hygienists think they are that bridge, but closer to the doctor, not to the team. So everybody's got their shortcomings, and we've all
Mhm.
dealt with a lot of them. But when it works, to your point, Stephanie, and you know how it works, you stay 10 years, you develop those relationships, you sell an extra $50,000, $60,000 a month, if not more, because you have somebody that's, through my experience, Mary, it looks like it's a problem, but let me bring Dr. Jones in.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful. And I love that handoff because today's day and age, it's the new thing, the big thing is same day dentistry.
Yeah.
And if you get hygienists that can, and we have so good at passing the baton to the doctor and getting him so riled up that if the doctor says, I have an opening in a half hour, I'll take it, doc. That's a great credit to the hygiene because
Yeah.
that was the handoff. It just
Yep.
doesn't happen with the doc and it doesn't happen at the front. That bridge becomes imperative.
Now, you have mentioned this concept of the hygienist being the bridge, and I've heard that on your podcast and another interview that you did. So, do you mean the bridge between the patient and the dentist, or the patient and the front desk, or what, or all of it?
You're 100% right. It's all the above.
Okay.
They're coming out and they're saying, I need an appointment with Cassie, Jane. I need an appointment with Bob, whoever it is. And it's a great, great compliment. Now they're engaged in the practice, right? They already have a private name, a personal relationship. The bridge from that patient to the doctor, the apprehension, the anxiety, the fear has just been lessened. The
Hmm.
ability for that patient to say yes has just been heightened. So what I'm saying is the bridge there, but I also make the mention of a bridge. To me, the hygienist, and we're talking about really good hygienists in a room, in the office, they come in and they are the highest paid employee in the office, barring the doctor. Now, maybe the office manager, but not per hour. All right. So per hour, hygiene is the highest paid without the doctor. What I'm saying also is I look at all the different you and other hygienists that have podcasts, lecture series, learning and teaching. They are probably the most knowledgeable person next to the doctor and the most ambitious. Then you have the assistants and the front desk administrative work. So they look up to the hygienist. If that hygienist is a leader, and that hygienist really likes the doctor and the professional team, that is going to be a very tight practice. It goes by money, in my opinion. Sometimes it doesn't, but ladies that are working for $25 an hour look at a hygienist that is making $55 an hour and say, wow, that's what I want to do. Well, she's there doing it. I'm going to listen to her. She's the bridge.
Yeah. Okay.
And consequently, it could be a collapsed bridge if they're not feeling, it could be a cluster if they're
It
not
could be.
feeling, right? I mean, if they're not feeling so, but I do think, and I've had some great ones, leaders just could make the practice and the day wonderful.
I've worked with some hygienists that are amazing and are leaders and are invested in the practice and not just like getting their paycheck. And then, yes, I've worked with hygienists too that are they just want to scrape teeth and that's it. They refuse to take x-rays, they refuse to do any screening for the doc. So yeah, I mean it comes down to personalities too and like
Yeah.
and yeah.
It's
Um
definitely the makeup, but that's,
Yeah, yeah, but it can really work.
yeah,
But
yeah.
all the issues that we're seeing right now, just with dentistry and hygiene and hygienists feel like they're being like pushed out of the profession. A lot of it comes down to money and production. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's how it is.
Yep.
So when we're looking at a practice, like the overall production of a practice, is there a number or a percentage that the hygiene department should have in a practice?
I mean, I feel that with the advent the last decade of these groups and DSOs and DPOs and people that really put values on different aspects of a practice, they're looking for a 20 to 30, 18 to 25% hygiene department.
Okay.
Practice does $1 million. Hygienists should produce $250,000. So if they produce 300,000, it's a very aggressive, very good hygiene department and maybe very busy. If it's very low, then maybe we have teeth scrapers. So now
Hmm.
they're producing 4 or 5%. It's their salary. And what I'm telling you is if I look at that, I look how long the hygienist has been there. If the hygienist has been there 4 or 5 months, a year, then maybe we can make the turn and make a change and evaluate how good the other aspects of the practice. If the hygienist has been there for years and the doctor let the hygienist team and the whole department go 5, 6%, I bet you their EBITDA is very, very low because they
Yeah.
probably don't look at the lab bills, the rent, the supplies, and everything else that has gone escalated. That seems to be the trend. I think developing a very strong hygiene department gives you a very happy hygienist, gives you the bridge, gives you a great handoff when you need treatment. And let's face it, every office has a meeting at the end of the month and they go, guys, we're 40 grand. We have 3 days. Come on. A
Yeah.
hygienist can make it right there. Or they can moon it right there. Now, I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm saying that's a reality check. We talk numbers. And the key to dentistry is talk numbers, deliver great service, and they should never know you're looking for numbers. So if that is the case, then it is the makings of an excellent, well-run machine.
If you have a practice that maybe is in those lower percentage numbers
Mm.
and maybe, I don't know, they're in a rut or they've just kind of let it go, do you have some tips on someone who
I
wants to turn their hygiene department around?
It's a great idea, and I gave it some thought when in the last couple of months, only because, to your point, you look at a practice, you want to buy a practice, you want to see how you can turn around the practice.
Mhm.
First of all, the lost art. The number one, in my opinion, lost art of dentistry is probing. There is not a hygienist in the world that comes in and goes, I'm going to probe. Do you probe? Yes, we probe. Oh, okay. Like they have to ask, do you probe? Oh, we spot probe. No. I think to turn around a perio program or a hygiene program is, first of all, let's look at it. 3 to 4 out of 10 Americans that have not been to a dentist in 6 to 8 months need scaling of some sort and root planing, has radiographic calculus. If we're not even looking for that, if we're not probing, so how do you look for that? First of all, you got to take the proper x-rays. Patient is a new patient. You take 4 bites, 2 PAs. That's not a new patient exam and x-rays. So maybe you should go back and look at a pan, a full set, or 4 bites, 2 PAs, and selected PAs where root canal, open crowns, but just take a full set. And
Yeah.
now you have a full set. You have probing depths. You have existing stuff marked off, and you go in, and now you could see what the office needs to do and what you need to do. There's calculus all over these teeth radiographically. Even though I probed at 4 millimeters, it's because I had a bunch of calculus.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm a dentist. Really, I've been doing this a long time, and I have some insight into what we look for. And I think if someone says, how do you revolutionize it? It's not to bring in electric toothbrushes and sell them, although that could be it. It's not to give a Reston, although that could be it. It's not to sell whitening, although it's to go to basics. We want to probe. We want to meet Mary face to face. We want to get to know them. We want them connected to the practice. That's the hygiene's job. Now, if you have a wonderful patient relation hygienist and they're only producing 8, 9%, and they just can't get better, but they develop such great rapport with people. And when they say do work, we got to weigh it. We're businessmen. We're
Yeah.
businesswomen. We have to weigh. She's been here for 4 years. People love her. She doesn't sell the Arrestin. She doesn't push this. We could try, but her rapport with patients is just phenomenal. Her acceptance rate is off the charts. That's also value. So I think like everything else in dentistry, I use the word pivot. We run our businesses. And if you have something, you can't just go 18%, good. But this one is doing a 4%, get rid of her.
Yeah.
Can't do that. You got to look at everyone and maybe you can work with people. As I got more experienced, I definitely keep more than I let go.
Mm.
Meaning I want to work with people. I want to get people better. Of course, a thief, of course, somebody who just doesn't care about other people, but people that are trying, you never know what's coming. And if you have somebody really good and you really want to, communication is the key. And I think that's the same thing with hygiene.
I think hygienists, and honestly, I used to be like this too. Like long time ago when I was newer, I didn't want to look at the numbers because I thought it was like unethical or something. I didn't think that was it. But really, we're not overselling treatment to our patients. We're not telling them, we're not recommending things they don't need. We're diagnosing what most people have, which is some form of perio, right? And our numbers for the practice should reflect that.
Correct. And you see, the hygienist needs to make the patient feel like they're giving them the preview, almost like a second opinion that the doctor's going to say.
Hmm.
They're not pushing treatment. They have the ability to talk about treatment. Oh, it'll look so much better. And the other thing the hygienist must do is they must say, you need those veneers done. You wanted to redo them last time we talked about it. And Dr. Smith is wonderful. I just saw a case the other day. It was beautiful. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, she'll do a great job. They have to be our biggest fans. If they're not our biggest fans, I don't care what they're producing. They're destroying. Fandom is very important in dentistry's offices. Fandom builds doctors, builds practices, builds rapport. Terrorism, tearing down people's reputations, saying negative things behind their back, whether it be the administrator, the hygienist, the assistant, or the doctor, tears us down.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of factors that go into a hygienist. I may really enjoy having you in the office for everything you teach and guide these people that we have in the staff. And maybe we're growing and we want you to oversee one or two other hygienists. And you just have this way about you that just increases production from others. There's a lot of things to look at. There's also other things that once you have stable hygienists, let's face it, myofunctional therapy is gaining ground,
Hmm.
sleep gaining ground, and then the two do have some play together. So, I think hygienists, they have their own voice and they're very demonstrative about pay. And I think pay has gotten high.
I
And
agree. And I saw this after the lockdown. The wages were just going through the roof. And I was like, guys, I understand like maybe you haven't gotten a raise for a long time and you're just thinking this is catch up or whatever. But I do think in some circumstances it's excessive and it hasn't helped what we're seeing right now, which is people trying to train other people to do our job. While we're on the topic, what is your opinion on that? We've got internationally trained dentists, dental students potentially doing hygiene, and also dental assistants potentially doing hygiene. What's your opinion on all of that?
obviously, my opinion is it's wrong. It's like a dental assistant drilling a decay because they don't
Mhm.
want to pay the per diem for a dentist. It's like a hygienist going in and flipping out a root because they don't want to pay a doctor. I think the hygienists better get a grip because when you come in at the $60, $65 hour range and you think this is a game, doctors will have platforms. And I do believe it's wrong. And I do believe we need some regulation. But I also believe that we need regulation from hygienists. And I think hygienists asking for 60, 65 is fine as long as they're producing and they're bringing in great responses. But
Mhm.
the problem with the lockdown was it's what I live by. You can never go backwards with a raise or a salary. Somebody's working 25 an hour, you go to 28 an hour. And then after the lockdown, you say, you know what, Mary, we're going back to 25 an hour. No, we're not. I'm leaving you. So when we raise the hygienist fee for seeing patients with that may have COVID or we're dealing with a very scary time, we probably should have done it a little differently,
Yeah.
but we opened up the box and we can't put You can't shove that thing back in it. We made our bed and we've got to figure it out. And the one thing I can say about dentistry, and I think it's in front of us, is what would happen if we pay them less? I mean, they're still producing on a really good practice $250,000. They're involved in going from 750 to $1 million. So paying them 100, 125, 130 grand is pretty okay because of all the tangential things. Now, if they're not that bridge, if they're toxic, they have to know, and I'll say this on a hygiene, they have to know at the same token they're held to a higher degree. They're expected to be punctual. They're expected to be clean. They're expected to carry themselves as a leader. Listen, we all had to sacrifice days. When I live in New York City when I was building my practices. And I just did not think, very rarely I did, but when I would go out to a restaurant or something, I felt a little funny wearing ripped jeans and t-shirts. I know that I'm in a high-end area. People look at me at a big practice. I think hygienists come in, they have to have that same professionalism. There's nothing wrong with seeking higher pay. You just asked to fulfill a higher regimen, a higher value. You're now even more towards the clinical side to develop that bridge. You're even more of a producer to cover that salary. So I think with this comes everything else. There's responsibility in dentistry. If I go and open a practice, I can't just rent anything. I have to
Yeah.
afford it. So hygienists are becoming a commodity.
I'm all about people making more money, and like knowing what their worth is. But I don't think, and I thought this back after the lockdown when I saw this happening, I don't think that just because you have RDH behind your name means that you're entitled to make X amount of money. We really have to show our value and practice this like holistic dentistry and really being that bridge, like what you're talking about. Speaking of hourly, do you prefer hourly or commission? Do you have an opinion on those?
So here's the thing. What I try to do is get a little bit of both. I say, I'll give you 50 an hour, but I'll pay you every pay period, 2 weeks of any product, any arrestin, anything you do that's a little out of the norm, and we have a
Mhm.
list, we'll give you whatever percentage we make or whatever. There's a certain point we give them and then bonus, it's on collection. So they have an opportunity to really produce another $200-300. And sometimes it's much bigger. So it could be another 1,000 a month.
Yeah.
Now, the phrase the salary, it gives us a little break on salaries. It gives them an opportunity to make more than 60 or 55 an hour. In New York City, everybody's asking for whatever they can get everywhere, but there's certain cities that are very, very forward-thinking hygienists that believe they should be getting what doctors are getting. So I think that gives them an opportunity to earn more, but also own up. I think both of them are important because nobody wants to do things that, let's say I have a downtime and I've got a patient with needs 15 minutes of explanation why they should do that roundhouse. Or I've got downtime. I'm going to let this patient go. Can go to the bathroom, make a phone call, get coffee, sit down, make a couple of calls, and be done. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So it falls on to the business leaders and the office managers to find someone good and make them great, and then find someone friendly and make them part of the family in the practice. And we have a responsibility. Getting foreign trained, getting people that aren't bought in, I would rather stay to the high side and get us all regulated so we don't have more lawsuits, more issues. And what's going to happen is undoubtedly it's going to put a bad name on hygienists or dental practices if they're not fully trained. So I don't think it's going to be done as quick. And I think the better practices are going to still want the person that has been trained and tried and true and knows about it. Now they're all trained. I just feel how do you get insurance? What happens? What happens if an assistant or foreign trained, you got a problem.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it. And there's a lot to unpack with that.
And I just don't want us to put the cart before the horse like people tend to do and then have to deal with the fallout later. I want to ask your opinion on this. So, back when I was at that practice that I was there for 10 years, I would track, and I was the only hygienist, and I would track my daily production, what the percentage of perio was, but I would also track the treatment that was diagnosed out of my room and that was completed in the doctor's chair. From my opinion, if I was just looking at the overall practice, that is the number that I would focus on. And that's where I would find myself or see myself as most successful. Do you think that's just as important as like the production at the end of the day in the hygiene column? Am I wrong?
No, that's why you're having a podcast, because you're 100% right. And you
Okay.
should educate other hygienists that, you know what that's called? That's called job security. If
Right.
you're a hygienist that could sell and get people into your doctor's chairs and you're invaluable in that way, there's no way they're going to ever look for somebody. And then when you come to them for that $2, $3, $4 an hour raise, they're going to say, I think I did $100,000 last month solely because she referred them to me. So I think that's uberly important. And I think that's the stuff that gets you raised and gets you to a point where you're making the money you want, whatever that number is, because selling Arrestin should be across the board.
Yeah.
Got a 6? Let's put Arrestin, let's talk about it. Talking about treatment, explaining to the patient why they should be calm and know this is the place for them. That's a different ballgame. That's somebody who's doing it because of the love of the business, the office, and the patients and the care, and not just solely because they're going to get a dollar, because in that instance, they're not. They're just going to
Right.
get down the road. They have to understand that's just why they're in that practice for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, is because they do those things.
Well, and that's why I get kind of frustrated when I'm just looking at these. I try to stay off Facebook forums, honestly, because I just can't anymore. But sometimes when I get on them, I'll see these comments from practice owners and they're like, my hygienist, if they're not producing X number at the end of the day, that's a problem. And I'm just like, God, that is such a limited view of how you see hygienists. Like if you see us just as two scrapers, then sure, you're going to focus on that number. But why not utilize your hygienist and fill your chair? Have them help you fill your production, and then you'll be able to really see the value of a hygienist.
I 100% agree with you. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't look at it that way, and I'm definitely in the business side of it. But I always believe the clinical excellence and making people feel they're in a private practice and they're going to
Mhm.
get the right job for them. And that goes through a few tiers, the front desk, the phone, we know it, the phone, the front desk, the interaction with the team, seating the patient, the hygienist for that 45 minutes, an hour, cleaning that patient, getting to know, oh, you have 3 kids. That's so nice. Now the patient feels like they have a home. The doctor who came in and said hello is now saying hello and examining the patient, and they love the guy or the gal. And they say this has been why they love the guy or the gal, because the 3 touch points they just had were perfect.
Yeah.
So if you get the 3, 4, 5 touch points through a practice and you have a great experience, I mean, you tell me how invaluable that is for a hygienist, and they're the one treating them that day. It's the first set of hands that actually go into the mouth in a practice that believes in hygiene. First set of hands. If they're gorillas, if they go in and poke the palate by accident, we're done.
Done. Yeah, I know it's over.
Pretty valuable, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, speaking of, I wanted to ask you what your opinion was on this. I've been in practices where the new patient sees the dentist first and then they see the hygienist first. Have you found one to be better than the other?
I always like meeting the patient first, personally.
Okay.
I felt like I would be able to win them over, get them into the practice, feel good I met the doctor. But sometimes we're knee deep in a procedure. And if we take a break, pull away, and get everybody up and spitting and rinsing, that's going to take 6, 7 minutes away from me trying to be on time for that exam in 45 minutes. So I think we have to have that trust at some point that the hygienist goes in, and they're bubbly, they're excited, they're talking to him, they're telling him what a great practice they have here. Look at all the technology. We're going to look at your x-rays in front of you. I think it should come to the point where it shouldn't matter. But That's where the screening and the front desk comes through. If they say, listen, John is here, he's first cleaning, please remember he has a bad toothache, then that's when they should notify the doctor to come in.
Okay.
Because the doctor should make sure that bad toothache is not a subosteal infection that might be pushed down to the lymph glands if it's cleaned. I believe that we can never pigeonhole any except coming on time, patients must pay, and let's all have fun while we build a huge practice. We can't pigeonhole because everything, is in real time. It's in fluidness, and it's our job to make those decisions quickly. If I'm walking from a room and I hear he's seated and he's got a little swelling, I'm going to go in. Let's take that x-ray first. Let me take a look at it.
Okay.
And that's why I think it's very important. Nothing could be, John's going into hygiene. Yep, he's swollen, but let's get the cleaning done. And no, yeah, what is that? I mean, yeah, he's crying in pain, but we're going to give him a scaling and
Let's
root
polish
planing
his
first.
teeth. Yeah.
Exactly. Hey, John, you want a whitening? Let's brighten your teeth while you're in agony. So,
So
I
important to
think
be
we
flexible.
exactly be flexible and always try to give the patients what they don't want. I'm kidding.
It's funny. It's funny because the inside joke is like all patients want is whitening, right? They don't really care about anything else.
White,
It's funny.
straight teeth. That's all
That's
they
it.
want.
Yep.
That's how I developed the product. All they want is white, straight teeth to snap
Right.
them on.
Yeah. So I didn't realize until I started kind of digging in that you were the founder of that company.
So this is a hygienist podcast. You're a star. A hygienist helped me tremendously by being my first model in Snap-on Smile. So I created Snap-on Smile in my New York office. And, even then, I learned the meaning of support and people really behind you because they were so excited to have me be an innovator and entrepreneur that they were so pumped for me. And a lot of the
Yeah.
people that were there then are still in these offices and they're still pumped for me. But I just felt this helped so many people and transcended so many different socioeconomic uses. And then it helped the rich people with temporaries. And, it just had a lot of great things. Like anything else, it's being bounced a little bit. I believe we're going to announce soon that it's found a new home. And as the inventor and hearing that it's coming out, maybe with or without my mug on it, I'm ecstatic. So I'm ecstatic. Forget money or anything like that, just to know the people that came to me from anywhere and said, "You're the guy with the teeth.
Yeah.
You can give me these teeth." And I said, "We're all guys with teeth, but I can give you these teeth." Just the stories were amazing. But yes, thank you for recognizing that. It was
Yeah.
a great run.
That's
Great
awesome.
run.
Congrats on that. So what is your opinion on assisted hygiene? Do you use
Yeah,
that in your practices?
I do. I really believe assistant hygiene is hard to keep up. I think we're asking our hygienist to really do things. It's sort of like a dentist working out of two rooms, right?
Yeah.
Dentists
Mhm.
insert or do a crown, walk in, get up. I've done that. I do that. But I think it's just not sustainable. I feel that way. Maybe I'm
Like for
wrong,
the hygienist, like burnout
the hygiene.
maybe or okay.
Yeah. I mean, you're literally boom to boom to boom to boom to boom to boom to boom.
Mhm.
I think you lose that rapport. And if that's what you need, because that's the fees you're getting, if somebody comes in and pays $275 for a clean-in, I don't like assisted hygiene.
Yeah.
If somebody's in a Medicaid office or a low-end office or an office where the second hygienist didn't come in that day, and one of the assistants we can't get a hygienist, but we get assistant. Hey, Diane, could you work assistant hygiene? I could. Okay. So today, am I a fan long term? No, I don't believe that we're going to sustain the things like where is it going to lose? Where do we lose? The probing. So we never talk about period disease. The quality x-rays. So we never make a proper diagnosis. The explaining to the patient what they may need and what we want to do. So they never develop that rapport. Guaranteed assistant hygiene patients, not that I'm against it, just don't love it.
Yeah.
Assistant hygiene patients walk up and say, I need a cleaning in 6 months. And that's my point. Because how do you get to know them? I think it's great for business. It's the business you want to provide. I'd rather have two or three hygienists cranking out hygiene all day long.
Yeah. Yeah, and
And
that's where, we can talk about insurance reimbursement, and maybe we need to drop some of these crappy plans that, like, don't reimburse
maybe they tell you
anything.
they have 2 older kids coming in and they really want a dentist, and I would like to set them up with you. Maybe my husband wants to come in. I tell him so many great things. He's leaving his friend. He wants to come in with you.
Mhm.
Look, I am a business-oriented dentist. And the way I feel about being business-oriented dentistry is being quality. It's crazy. I just believe that. And I know that if we're not redoing things, if we don't have complaints, if we're not answering bad reps, if we're doing the right thing, our books will be full. And I don't look to build practices in the hundreds. My city office was a multi-million-dollar practice, very high. And there are others that I oversee and I'm involved in that are great doctors, great partners that have just assisted hygiene sort of, it just takes a little away from the goal. Is the goal fee for service in life? Is the goal better ended patients? Is the goal to have a practice, which is the way I always guided myself, that I would have my family go to?
Yeah.
If I have my family go to them, then I know I'm developing and delivering a really good product. And to me, it is a business, and you might be in a main street area. We all travel and we see the cities because we go to these shows and talk. And then I could be in a city and I could see why they may need, maybe there is a 20-minute hygiene room. I'd rather see a assistant hygiene. So I know the room and the instruments are sterile, but we've all know these things, I know these things. And I just feel like I don't want to go down that path because I want probing. I want
Yeah.
x-rays. I want existing work. I want my hygienist selling dentistry. And I want to do same day.
I have done it. I've I've done it the bad way and I've done it the good way. I remember I had this just kick-ass assistant and she could take just as good, if not better, x-rays than I did. We were on top of the probings, checking medical history. She was excellent to that, talking to the patient. It was great. But however, I could only do that 2 days a week because it was a lot on my body and
Right.
my
And you
brain.
can't, it's not sustainable. It's just
Yeah,
not
but I just set
sustainable.
that boundary with the practice. I
I
was like,
think
I
it's
can do this 2 days a
unbelievable.
week.
Right. I think it's unbelievable for my hygienist, Stephanie, to come in and be able to pitch in a day or so a week. And whenever somebody does that, I do give them extra because they're double rooming, right?
Yep.
So I just feel that in the end, with the holidays and everything from a business standpoint, I'd rather have two and let's get them filled than have one and let's get her killed because
Right.
she is definitely not going to make the month if we want to book. I want to book. So she's seeing 20 hygiene patients. I
Yeah.
don't want to get my teeth cleaned like that.
Yeah. There's some hygienists out there that are doing it full time. And I do think that there's a way to do it, but
There
I tell
is.
people it's like you have to have a really, really good assistant. It can't be someone you just grab from up front that's going to come back and help you or an assistant you're going to pull from restorative. Like it's a different skill set, and they have
Correct.
to be
But if
trained.
you're a hygienist that has done it and has mastered it, I always believe somebody probably has really mastered it, has an assistant that they love more than the doctor loves their
Yeah.
assistant. And it's very true because as they're taking x-rays, they're almost like a clone talking to the patient,
Hmm.
getting them relaxed. The hygienist walks in, got a little debriefing, looks in and goes, "Hi, I'm so sorry. I was running a little late, but everything that could work." I just never had it to work because I think getting an assistant that's at the $28 an hour mark in my city or high-end cities is just a big cost for a hygiene hour.
Yeah. Right.
It's almost $100 just going into the appointment.
And you have to look at the business side of that too, for sure.
Correct.
One of the questions I wanted to make sure I asked you, because I see this a lot online too,
Mhm.
is these dental practices that preach not having a hygienist at all, and the doctor is doing all of the hygiene. So, what are your thoughts on that? Like, can that actually work?
It can work, and that has to be depending on what we term work. For me, there's a few aspects here. First of all, a drill, fill, and bill doctor doesn't go home and feel good as much as a all on X doing multiple modalities, clear aligners, root canals,
Yeah.
implants, surgical. So I think there's an absolute feeling of self worth If I'm going home and how'd you do, honey? Well, I did 2 crowns today and I did 4 cleanings, saw 3 new patients. They didn't need much, so I cleaned 2 of them and referred back next week. They're coming in for doing a cleaning. I mean,
Yeah.
really? So you're getting 150 for that hour? Oh no, you're only spending 20 minutes. So you're not doing a great cleaning. You're just doing a cleaning. I think
Mhm.
doctors who do that may not have the wherewithal or the personal self-respect to say, I'm better than that, or I'm better than that. So we're going to build a hygiene department. We start with 1 day, then go to 2 days. But I'm not doing hygiene. I'm scheduling. Somebody walks in going, doctor, I'm leaving tonight. Can I get a clean? Okay. We'll all do that. But if somebody's got a routine of cleanings and fillings and crowns in the other column, how are you going to build that? You're literally just taking money,
Yeah.
doing a 5 out of a 10, 4 out of a 10 job. Slowly, your dentistry is going to slip into those numbers. And slowly, your complaints are going to go higher. Your reputation's going to get worse. Money's going to be a little tight. You're going to buy worse material. You're not going to have money to market, and subsequently, you're going to be stuck in the $300,000-$400,000 range. Because 180, 200,000 is cleanings, and that to me is not the way I want to build my business.
I don't see how you can scale doing that.
It's not a business to scale, and if it's a group situation, it's not a group I would ever consider putting my practice in.
Interesting.
And I'll believe that that is the type of lower end state insurance accepted type of practice.
Mm.
And I could tell you from the group I'm with, Guardian, we don't even look at practices with Medicaid. And I personally never was involved in Medicaid. And the reason is not because I knock it, it's because I just can't deliver by paying people the type of dentistry they're demanding us to deliver. It's a mindset. And I truly believe that establishing the things we talk about, again, you want to practice and a way of clinical working that you'll bring your friends and family to. Nobody wants to come in and see me clean their teeth.
Yeah, which is
That would
funny. I mean, it's funny because patients have this misconception that if the dentist is cleaning their teeth, they're just gonna get, like, a really good cleaning, and it's just funny because a lot of times that's not the case. But I've never understood that. I'm like, "Okay, so the dentist is doing cleanings, fine, but we all know restorative is, like, way more productive, and so how are you doing both, and how are you doing a good job?" I
right.
don't see how that's
It's
possible.
obviously they can't fill the book
Yeah.
and they're a little nervous to let go of hygiene because that's one way they can pay the doctor.
Yeah.
A lot of times you get a doc in the box, one doctor in a practice, and they'll practice the way they can make the most money and cram in the patients and do what they got to do. And we know
Yeah.
it's not ideal. We go around dentistry, we all know there's ideal, there's amazing, there's good, there's pretty good, there's trying, and then there's just, ideas that just aren't really what we want dentistry to portray. And I think we can't govern everybody, but I can't imagine that being a good situation.
Yeah, I
There's
can't
very
either.
productive practices, crazy productive, hundreds and hundreds of maybe almost $1 million a month. Great practices that don't value hygiene. But those are more like hired guns. You come in, you want veneers, they're done, goodbye, find a dentist to do your cleanings.
Okay, so just like one and done type of
It's like a
thing?
specialist. Perio only has recalls for their surgical cases. It's like a specialist. So I think it's a very interesting dynamic when hygiene is in a practice and how people utilize them. And,
Yeah,
hygiene also go to be managers and run the practices. And that's their knowledge, thus the bridge that they could take over a bunch of things. So regional managers, a lot of them are hygienists. So, I mean, I think the hygienists have really risen in the field. Now, that could be out of necessity because people aren't hiring them as much, or they're pricing themselves, or they're just very entrepreneurial and they want to make more money, which I think is the latter. And I think that's what it is. But I still think those that are involved, hands on, understand, so valuable to us as a group.
I just wish that more practices would utilize the hygienist because they can be so valuable, and I also hope that more hygienists realize their own value and how much they can contribute to the practice. So
I
before
think
we wrap
very
up,
true.
Where
Very,
can people, reach out to you if they wanna get in touch with you? I know
let's
you
see.
speak often,
Yeah.
right, about this kinda stuff?
Yeah, I speak about dentistry. I do have a podcast. It's called Dentistry Beyond the Numbers with Dr. Marc Liechtung. My email is mliechtung@gmail. And I would love to hear from people. I mean, I think this is a great topic, Stephanie. I think you really made this so easy and so informative. But the docs out there and the hygienists out there really need to know that this is a tremendous guidance. And maybe you should look at the money people can make with a hygienist and learning how to work it, because as we get older, we're not going to want to do every single thing in the practice. We're going to want to bring on some helping hands, or we're going to sell it for a discount. And remember, no group is really looking for a practice without a substantial, set in stone hygiene department. It doesn't mean you have to have a hygienist for a long time, but that means if they want to have a hygienist there and they bring a new one on, they could just plug him or her in. I think it's the way to go in the future. I think it was the way to go for the last 30 years of my life. So I think hygiene is here, and I know we need to utilize them, and hygienists have a responsibility. With power, with big numbers come responsibility, and enough. Go 6 months a year without asking for a raise. Be a galvanizing figure in the offices. Sell the heck out of your patients. And I know that's a terrible word to say sell, but it's not. It's our word of vernacular of saying, let's present in a great way and get patients to understand their needs. That's what
Yeah.
selling means. Doesn't mean just clipping them and taking their money. It means explaining to them what they need, and nobody does it better or should do it better before the doctor gets in there than the hygienist. And that to me is where the value is. I
Yep,
hope
and
that was music to a hygienist's ear,
yeah,
'cause
I'm like,
I'm
"Mic
gonna
drop," right there.
yeah, exactly.
So, I'll make sure to put all of your contact information and your
Thank you.
podcast down in the show notes, and thank you so much for your time.
Stephanie, you're amazing, and I think you are, a real leader in this movement of hygiene and how important it is, so thank you for including me, and I'll see you down the road on Dentistry Beyond the Numbers. I'll see you
All
guys.
right. Thank you, and thank you everyone for joining, and we'll see you next time.